All right, welcome back, and it's now 11 minutes past, no, actually to 7 o'clock, and you're watching Daybreak on this second day of November 2020, of course, the very first Monday since the unveiling of the BBI report at the Bomas of Kenya. We continue to look into what it contains and what it promises, but also analyzing what is now becoming a contentious issue on whether to review it or to just enact it as it is. But we'll be talking about that with one Caleb Kositanyi, who is in studio, Member of Parliament for Soy constituency. Karibu sana. Fred Okango is the Secretary General of the Third Way Alliance. Is this still contested?
It has never been contested.
Never been contested.
You,
then joining us via way of Skype, we have Anthony Oloch, the Member of Parliament for Mathare constituency here in Nairobi County. Good morning, Honorable. And then we have one Senator Ledamo Lekina from Narok County. I don't know whether he's joining from. He'll be telling us about that. But let's begin with the conversation with the meeting that is happening in Naivasha. And Caleb Kositanyi, I see you here in studio. Why are you not in Naivasha?
Well, thank you, Sam. I am not in Naivasha because I never received any invite. I don't know what criteria they were using, but when we questioned the leader of majority as members of parliament in our WhatsApp group, he said that they were, because of COVID-19, they were inviting people in phases. So we believe we are in the second phase. Even though we asked him to share the list of those who are in the first phase, he never shared. So we just hope it's not a game. We are waiting. Next week is not too far, and we will know exactly what game was being played.
What game was being played. And Senator Ledamo Lekina, are you in Naivasha? If not, why?
Good morning. I will be heading to Naivasha this morning. I was in Mombasa. I serve in the health committee. So I was attending to the presidential launch of the universal healthcare, which was very important to me.
Right, and of course, we know that some of the conversations that are around going on in Naivasha to look into the modalities of moving forward with the BBI report. And let me begin with you, Fred Okango. There are those that are saying that before we enact it, we need to deal with the contentious issues. If you're talking about IEBC, if you're talking about winner takes all, if you talk about the judiciary ombudsperson, what do you think should happen with the lines already getting drawn?
Thank you, Sam, for having me today. The document that was unveiled at Bomas last Monday had also been unveiled previously. But remember, this document was prepared from the views that were collected from Kenyans from all over the country, and they gave their views. Kenyans had the opportunity to give their views to the task force, and Kenyans had a second opportunity where our party also gave their views in the validation, and that opportunity enabled the task force to give and consolidate the report which was launched last Monday. Now, if you look at constitutional amendment processes, they're negotiated processes. Negotiated in the sense that the public and the leaders and institutions are given time to submit their views on the changes they'd want to see. That was done by the BBI report. And therefore today, because it is a political process, there's likelihood of anyone, any group coming out to contest the contents because they would want it to suit their personal needs. And therefore, for me, I want to speak as a Kenyan who would want to see a situation where this country shall never have a divisive election that cripples the economy. This country shall have an inclusive system where even the losers in an election can put the government to accountable in a structured way, where this country shall have a situation where the young people and their challenges are converged in an institution where it can be sorted once and for all, and also where the women of this country are inclusive in terms of representation, and a fair representation that guarantees the electoral principles in Article 86. Because we have seen a situation where the women of this country are suitable and capable, and they're not there. And that's why some of the recommendations
but
in the
if you should say that the divisive elections will be a thing of the past, but already the process of arriving at that is divisive, how do you deal with it?
I don't think so, Sam. I don't think the process of arriving is divisive. Remember, some of the people that are talking loudest today did not appear before the task force, and therefore they are late for the party. In my view, this process, as far as is a national conversation, it is a conversation that did not start on Monday last Monday. It is a conversation that started 2 years ago.
Okay.
And that conversation has continued. We are at a stage where we cannot allow proceeding to the next level with the current situation. And there are people who are hell-bent to delay that process.
Let's listen to the Deputy President and the Vice Chair of the Jubilee Party, where Caleb Kositanyi comes from, and listen to what I'm talking about, the already divisive position on BBI.
If we eliminate selfish interests, it is possible for us to arrive at a consensus so that we can drive this process, unify the country, avoid unnecessary division.
There is no room for reopening that Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill. People give their views, and the fact that we know people like Musalia Mudavadi give their views, and now they have seen the new report, and they want to reopen it to accommodate other views, those are just tactics that will delay the process, and we don't have the luxury of time.
So, Anthony Oloch, Member of Parliament from Muthari constituency, you used to be pro-BBI. I don't know that that has changed. And when you listen to the voices, for instance, from the Deputy President and the Vice Chairperson of the Jubilee Party, what do you think we should be doing now? I saw your party chairman saying that that window has been closed, and you'll be listening to John Mbadi a few minutes from now. What is your position?
Well, thank you very much. I am fully and firmly still in support of the BBI. My view of this is simple, that what we are witnessing now, the clamor for the reopening of the BBI for quote-unquote negotiations and compromise, is similar to what we went through in 2005. A clique of people from PNU and ODM, the Deputy President was one of those, held the process hostage. And the end result was that a very comprehensive process of review and the committee of experts ended up compromising the structure of government that we had adopted, and we dropped a lot of good proposals. The Deputy President and those who want to open up this process must be alive to the fact that this process has gone on for 2 years. The BBI experts presented their first draft on at Bomas, and instead of bringing up these compromise issues, and I'm glad that Okango says that the draft is pretty much the same, the draft that we had in Bomas with a little bit of improvement here and there, to come at these last minutes and insist that, you must accommodate this, raises a few issues, and we must avoid a situation of where we were in 2005, where we will end up having a stalemate, where we will end up having filibustering, and we may end up derailing the referendum process given the time frame that we have left.
But Anthony Oloch, why would we be in a hurry to correct what ails the country? Why hurry? Why can't you just take time to listen to everyone and have a unifying position? Is it possible?
Well, every process must have a sunset date, and I think that this has been consultative enough. Even if you say, let's have time to listen to a few more people, what is to stop other people again coming and saying that, look, we have not sufficiently been consulted here? Everything, we must take a position of principle as a country. Are we going to have a referendum before the next election? That's the bottom line. If we will, then we have in my counts no later than March or April next year. Then take all the other constitutional processes under 257. You must also read into this that people who have bastardized this process throughout, including the Deputy President and people in his wing, they say this was conmanship, this was...
Okay, all right. We appear to be having challenges connecting with the one Honorable Oloch. You'll be reconnecting us shortly from now. But Senator Ledamo Lekina, I have read a few tweets from you. Of course, not happy with how the Senate has been treated in the proposals under the BBI report. Has that changed? And what do you think, even as you go to Naivasha, what do you think should be happening to ensure that the views that you have are also considered in what should be presented to the people of Kenya in a referendum if that becomes a reality?
Thank you, Maura. Maura, this
no,
issue...
Sam.
Oh, Sam. Sorry, Sam. Sam, sorry. Sam, the document must be opened. That is my view. And I do not associate with any political affiliation. I am an ODM member. I am not a Jubilee member. I'm an ODM member, and my views are guided by the people who elected me to represent them in the Senate of the Republic of Kenya. The document, the way it has been presented, does not reflect the will of the people. And unless we are willing to change the divisiveness that has been entrenched in this country, we must listen to every person.
It's 7 hours.
They must open the document. If you look at the issue of land use policy, which I was arrested and detained in police custody for over 10 hours, that issue was never raised. If you look at the problems that the Maasai people have when it comes to the issue of land, the people of Kenya have when it comes to the issue of land, it has not been addressed. Issue must be addressed. When you look at the way they have taken all the powers from the Senate, introduced things that no one gave views for the Senate to be now just a place where leaders just collect salaries, and you take women from where the money is and you take them to the Senate, attempting to lie to people that you're trying to deal with the gender parity issue. It is something that means that you do not care about the future of this country. I keep insisting that we must make a constitution that will outlive us. It's happening right now. And even when you hear the sentiments of people like David Morade and other people who have expressed their sentiments saying that this document cannot be open, is that they're really thumb-chesting. And that is not the way to lead a country.
Senator, I remember you saying that you had made your presentations before the BBI team.
I did. If you look at number 58 in that document, even right now.
Yes, and when you look at it, why your views considered? Because you hear Antonio Loch saying that those that are bastardizing this process, they bastardize the process, and they are the same ones that are saying the document needs to be reopened. When you made your submissions, do you see a trace of what you presented?
Not a single one. In fact, my submissions were to make the Senate the upper house, to ensure the Senate vet all constitutional appointment, to ensure that the Senate has got, has got original jurisdictions on legislations, meaning that they can pass legislation, they go straight to the president because it's an upper house, to ensure that the Senate checks all the bills that come from the National Assembly. Because of the fusion now, which is being created by getting members of the National Assembly to serve as ministers, that fusion being created between the National Assembly and the executive must be checked. So none of those views were taken into consideration. One other thing which is very painful to me, and I'll tell you this, and I hope the president is listening, and my own party leader, Raila Amolo Odinga, is listening. We have a serious issue on Kidong Ranch. And last week, instead of solving the problem, what was happening now in that big parcel of land, which is around 75,000 acres, is that the excavators were now going in where the houses are, where there's a church, where there's a toilet. They dig a huge hole to deter people from entering. That should not be happening in the 21st century. We have to be able, if we are not coming in dictatorially, if we are not coming in with issues of forcing people, we must be willing to accept and to respect the will of the people. Okay. We were assured that all those issues will be included in the BBI. They were not. Now, the last thing, which is really annoying, is that the issue of revenue formula. If you look at the proposed revenue formula, which is now being proposed in the BBI, if it passes, a county like Isiolo will lose 2 billion shillings. A county like Lamu, which is only getting 2.5 billion shillings, will lose 1 billion shillings because they have now reintroduced the issue of per capita, which is not a good thing to deal with. There are counties that have been marginalized for over 50 years. We've got to take those things into consideration. And finally, one of the things that annoys me the most is that the Maasai of Ilchamus, of Baringo, pleaded, and they were told they will be given. You can go back to the archives. They were told they'll be given their own representation in parliament. They have not been considered.
Right.
These are pertinent issues that when you dissect or when you open up the document, you will see that all those things were overlooked. So really, let us not make a constitution that will only benefit us, but let us make a constitution that will outlive our generations.
All right, Senator, and of course I'll be raising the questions with Fred and Anthony because they are pro the BBI report on how the views of Kenyans who are represented. Of course, you didn't sit in that panel, but you support the process. But Honorable Kositany, so now the retreat is going on at in Naivasha, and you're saying that you've not been invited, yes. But again, also, I am not sure you presented your views before the BBI task force. And then if we were to go with what Anthony Oloch is saying, then one would wonder, do you have the standing to really raise the issues that you're raising now, if at all you never presented what you thought should be included in the BBI report in the first place?
Thank you, Sam. I want to believe that, as we have been told by our party leader, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, that the BBI is about inclusivity, is about having all Kenyans on board, and having a document for posterity. It does not matter whether I gave my views to the task force or not. What matters is what I have raised now. Are the issues I have raised pertinent? Are they important? Are they making sense? And that is what really matters. If we are actually preparing a document for this country and for posterity, then I should be listened to. It should not be, there is no condition that because I did not present my views, then my views don't matter. My views matter today, tomorrow, and the day after. And remember, I still hold the view, which I have held before, and when this BBI started, that BBI was about creating positions. All these other things that you see there are sugarcoating. And I have said also that we need to separate the legislative issues and the issues that require a referendum. What requires a referendum in terms of percentage with the BBI is maybe about 3 or 4%. The rest can be dealt with through bills that can be brought into Parliament. So we really need to ask ourselves, are we heading in the right direction? We need to listen to each other. The Deputy President made gave his presentation at Bomas, and I think that was the best forum to give it because it was there in public for all Kenyans to listen to. And I think we need now to have a robust debate. And
so how do you suggest we move forward? Because, I mean, as they are saying, time is of essence, because Antonio Oloch says that from his count, the latest you can have a referendum is April. When you listen to the majority leader of the National Assembly, one Amos Kimunya, he says that by June 2021, we should have had that referendum. How do you suggest we move forward if you're to listen to the views like what you're saying and others?
Well, I think I don't know why we are in a hurry. First of all, I don't know why there are certain time limits on when we can hold the referendum. The referendum can be held alongside the 2022 general election or even before, yes. But also, as we discuss issues of referendum, we need to discuss affordability. What is the state of our economy? What will the referendum cost us as a nation? With an election coming up again in 2022, we need to discuss all these things in the open. But as I said, the suggestions that, the observations and suggestions that we have given can be, we can sit on a round table and have them sorted within a day. It's not rocket science.
Under whose guidance?
Under the BBI team, their term can be extended. Or even the current situation, we can even have an IPPG in Parliament, interparliamentary group, under an all-inclusive process, process that is transparent.
If you have to reopen the document, when do you stop?
Well, we will stop when we have a consensus, and I'm sure we can. You remember, Sam, we had the issue of a division of revenue in the Senate, which was very contentious. But eventually, we had a document that everybody voted yes. We had a consensus. It took a bit of about a month of convincing here and there and caucusing, and we have a document. So I think a constitution is a very, very, very important document, and I think it is on the hands of the president to leave a legacy whereby he gave an very consultative process. He presided over a process of redoing our constitution that was all-inclusive. That is the best legacy that the president can leave to this nation, and let us not have it look like it is one-sided.
Okay, all right. Let's listen to some senators who spoke over the weekend about this conversation, even as we look forward to what a few others said on consensus building.
If we have proposed in the BBI, let the president nominate members of the cabinet. It cannot be members of the cabinet from National Assembly. It is from Parliament. The language should be nominated from Parliament. Because under the vote functions, what would stop having a good brain who is in the Senate from being nominated just like in the National Assembly?
And I think it will be lying to say senators are happy with the proposal as there. We are not happy with how they have been crafted. They are those we want to improve further.
Tumeongeza pesa ya devolution from 15% to 35%. Mimi naunga mkono hiyo kipengele. Lakini mnaongeza pesa counties na mnachukua mamlaka ya senators. wale ambao inafaa wachunguze hiyo pesa.
All right, I'll come to you, Fred, but let me begin with Anthony Oluoch. And Honorable Kositanyi is suggesting that you reopen the document until you have consensus. What do you think, if that was to be entertained, when do you think you would need to stop so that now say we're only looking at these particular issues? Because if you have to reopen everything, then I would imagine that it will take almost similar time like what it has taken since 2018.
Thank you. First of all, I think it is important to take into account that the team that is asking for the time to be reopened is all at the same time saying different things. You can hear what Kositanyi is saying, that the best legacy the president can leave is to have a non-contested referendum. The very same group that has refused to give the president time to put his legacy in place by not putting 2022 campaigns. You can also hear from the debate talking about the issue of this document was never inclusive from the very beginning. Same thing that the DP said at the Bomas. I would like to say this before I answer that question, how do we go about this? The issue of looking at the document from the narrow path of 5 positions not being equal to inclusivity, I think is taking us through a very narrow path. We have been told to look at this constitution and the amendments holistically. Look at the collectivity of all the amendments that are being proposed, and if you do so, you will find that this document is bringing. The issue about inclusivity has a 5-tier approach to it. You have representation, where the women are being brought on board through the provisions of the Senate with the 47 seats. You have the inclusivity by opening up IBC so that when they put in place the election mechanism and the principle, they have to take into account Article 54.4 and Article 81 on the gender issues. You have a youth commission that has been created. That is inclusivity, bringing the youth on board. You have 35% increment on the devolution and the ward fund. That is inclusivity being devolved downwards. And then finally, now when you look at the executive, you can 2 more positions. The position of deputy president and at it holistically alongside all the other 5 parameters of inclusivity, including a leader of opposition now who will sit in parliament and lead his troops. Those provisions looked at collectively give us the impression there is a plate upon which we can argue the basis of inclusivity. I would like to urge my colleague, Bwana Kositanyi, is that in the time left, there is only very little things we can do. And I had a number of senators saying that if there are issues that we can polish already in the provisions, I'll give you an example. The issue of the 2/3 gender rule, whether or not, in fact, the 47 seats in the Senate and the additional 70 seats that are coming on the basis of 1 man, 1 vote, do they help us lead to the 2/3? Those issues can be polished and refined without necessarily opening up the document afresh. The danger of reopening up this.
Well, unfortunately, we keep losing the signal from Anthony Oluoch. Anthony Oluoch, I'll reconnect with you shortly, but let's first listen to what Juan Musalia Mudavadi, William Ruto, Mwangi Kiunjuri, and John Mbadi said about reopening the document and allowing for consensus building.
Tukishirikiana, tunaweza kuwa na ile non-contested referendum, ili watu wajadiliane through broad consensus na tumalize.
Tunataka tukubaliane mambo ya devolution. Hatutaki mambo ya Senate iteremshwe chini tupoteze devolution. Tunataka kukubaliana mambo ya kina mama. Hatutaki kina mama warudishwe nyuma. Tunataka kina mama wapelekwe mbele.
You cannot cross this document. If you cross the document and you are talking of consensus, you are talking of dialogue. Which platform do you offer Kenyans?
This document is final. We must now subject it to the people of Kenya. Anyone who wants to oppose this document, come out clearly, openly, so that we meet you on the political arena.
And Fred, that's what some may call chest thumping, coming from John Mbadi, the chairperson of ODM, who obviously would represent the side of ODM as a party. But if indeed you were to go to the phase of non-contested referendum, I don't know whether it's something popular within the Third Way Alliance that we should have non-contested referendum. But if this country is to make gains in moving towards the same direction, what do you think that should be? Should we allow ourselves to go to such a divisive referendum, if that be the case, or Should we do as Kositanyi is saying here, that we get a team from the BBI task force to open a few things here and there?
Thank you, Sam. First of all, before I answer that, let me unpack some of the lies that I've listened to there. I think it is a lie to believe the politicians who say that the Senate has been downgraded. The report proposes the amendment of Article 98 in terms of structure, but it does not propose the amendment of the function of the Senate in Article 96, and therefore those functions still remain. They still do division of revenue among the counties. They still protect, the interests of the county, and they still ensure that the oversight, state organs and state officers, that remains, and therefore that is a lie. Number two, it is important also to underscore this fact that constitutional amendments, particularly that lead to a referendum, they are contested. So there's nothing wrong with giving people opportunity to choose what they want or to reject what they don't want at the ballot. There's nothing wrong with that. And we are a democracy. People can go and choose, and that's the ultimate reason why people go for a referendum, so that they choose. So when people start talking about consensus, it is a good thing, because it also allows other views to be accommodated. But look at where we have come from. I will tell you from the point of our party. Our party believes in economic inclusivity. One of the best proposals that came from our party and also found itself in the BBI report is economic inclusivity. Today, tell me anyone who would want to reject increment of equitable share to 35%, at least 35%, anyone who would want to reject at least 5% of the World Development Fund. That means you are now taking services to the doorsteps of the people. And therefore you start measuring development bottoms up. That is what Kenyans want. Where are the people of Kenya? The people of Kenya are in the villages and in the wards. And we shall start seeing the achievement of the socio-economic rights as envisioned in Article 43, where water provision, electricity, Medicare, food. That is what is the most important thing. Forget about these talks about political inclusion. Those are not very important for now. The most important thing that has been taking this country down after every 5 years of election cycle is economic meltdown. If this BBI document is fixing the economic meltdown, this BBI document is fixing the division after every election, is strengthening devolution by ensuring that the counties can now get their equal share, and the people in those counties can benefit, then this document for sure is trying to sort the challenges that are affecting the majority. And again, Sam, look at it from this point. If you open this document today, to me, it's not about opening or not opening. To me, is let us go back to the contents. Does this document meet the challenges of the people? It does. Does this document attempt to include everyone? It does. Does the BBI document attempt to bring everyone on board so that we ensure that we have a parliament that is accountable, where the opposition leader sits in parliament, so that the government can be told on their faces in parliament by ensuring that they put measures in place? It does. The politicians also must know that this document has given them opportunity. Today, we are talking about implementation matters of BBI. Look, we have got legislative issues in terms of implementation. My friend, Honorable Kositanyi and Anthony Oluoch can go to Parliament and start implementing the legislative agenda today. There's policy. The executive, together with the legislature, can do that. We have got administrative issues to do with, like implementation of some of the measures that have been put in place, can start immediately. But if you look at the Constitutional Amendment Bill in Annex B of the report, it outlines areas that will require the input of the public. Those areas have been outlined in Article 255. And I believe...
Fred, you have raised an issue with you saying that the Senate is not being degraded. And I want to give the opportunity to Senator Olekina, because I've seen the proposed Article 218 of the Constitution on how Division of Revenue Act is to be enacted through Parliament. Of course, it gives different accounts on when both houses can agree or disagree, but also saying what should happen. I'm reading the proposed sub-article, is it 11, that the National Assembly may by resolution supported by at least a majority of all the members adopt the bill that shall thereafter be referred to the President for assent. And that bill is the product of the mediation committee that should have been appointed by the speakers of the National Assembly and the Senate. Exactly what is the matter with how DORA is to be pursued if this proposal in the BBI becomes law, Senator Olekina?
Sam, let me be very clear that for this country to be able to have a clear check and balance system, both houses of parliament must be involved in the division of revenue. That is where all the problems begin. You know, during the last financial year, we had like the minority leader in the National Assembly saying that the Senate has got no role to play in the division of revenue. In fact, even when we're in the mediation committee, and I served in both mediation committee on these issues of the division of revenue. So that is where we begin with ensuring that when the money is being divided between the two levels of government, the counties are not left behind. Unlike most of my colleagues, I'm a realist, and I know that this country does not have money. In fact, most people would be shocked if I tell them that today, their counties are receiving about 30% of the last audited financial statements. You know, I'm happy with only one part, that even if so long as they have been approved by the Auditor General, they can apply. But I don't know where that money will come from. So it is important that both houses are involved in all procedures the way it is now. Because if, let's say, the Senate did not have the powers that they have now when it comes to the issue of CARA, I can tell you the National Assembly would have just come in and taken over and then taken us back to court. So the issue is this. The Senate has been downgraded completely. You brought in another 47 senators there. You've taken away the issue of that important one vote, which is a delegation. You know, right now we have about 68 senators, including the Speaker.
Right.
But the people who only votes are 47. They're the delegations. So when you now say you're bringing in 47 women, are you going to say you're going to be having 2 votes from one county? Suppose one person says, I'm voting this other way. Are you not dividing that county? So really, we have got to be very clear. The issue that we raised, if you read the proposals made by the Senate brought up the issues of constitutional vetting, where they have to vet all officers. If the National Assembly appoints them, fine. We have to vet them. We have to make sure that at least we're vetting. We also must make sure that when it comes to the issues that deals with this issue of money bill, we've resolved it. We went to court, and I think Mheshimiwa Caleb Kusitani can tell you, him and I have had conversations before about these bills that have gone all the way to the president, and his views were different. But now, when we have it very clear in the Constitution, you know, we don't have to wait for a court to make a decision and remind us that Parliament is indeed those two houses. So, in a nutshell, what I'm saying is this: I don't believe that my brother, the gentleman from Third Way Alliance, sorry, I forgot your name, you're a good friend.
He's Fred.
Say that again?
He's Fred. Fred Okongo.
Fred. I don't think, you know, I'm trying to understand what Fred is saying. And I'm actually getting lost because I don't know whether he supports the document to be open or not to be open. I'm completely, in fact, at first when he was speaking, I was like, what is this guy saying? Is he saying that open the document or not? You know, it's good to be a little bit realistic and to be straight to the point. The issue, in my view, so that I can summarize on this issue of either if the Senate has been downgraded or not, I think it would be good now that the BBI task force did its part. A lot of people believe that the BBI task force was partisan, you know, and with all respect, they are mostly traditionalists. They don't know what is going on with the Generation X or other generations which are coming up.
But they had the benefit of a secretariat that would appear pretty informed about the politics of the country and law.
No, I think we're looking about the future. I mean, we've changed. Look at our kids now. Our kids going to school now? No, they are learning through the internet. So there are just certain things that really you have got to adopt with time. Technology is coming up and you've got to run with time. Okay. I don't want to get into that conversation, but let me finalize my point, the point that I was making here.
Yes, quickly.
I think it would be important that because some of us view that task force as being partisan, it is important for drafters of the Constitution, like the president and my party leader, Raila Amolo Odinga, should now say and invite the deputy president. Should they say now, what we do, gentlemen, let us appoint 12 drafters. These are people who are non-partisan, people who will take the current Constitution take the BBI as has been presented, and then additional views, because additional views should now not be broadened, should be restricted to the recommendation that has been made in terms of the executive, in terms of the role of parliament, and say, to be realistic, this is how we should draft them. And then from there, we are given. And I agree with the view that if when it comes to the issue of legislative proposals, those ones, they can be left to us in parliament. I'm seeing there are certain bills which are there, public participation bill. You know what annoys me is that the honorable senator from Busia has a public participation bill that has been pending in parliament. Why should it?
Okay. All right, Senator Lekine, we appear to be losing your signal, but I will reconnect after the break. One Justice Olumo on Twitter is saying that what a double standard with our politicians. The very people who are warming up to oppose the referendum were given opportunity to give their views, but they chose otherwise. Politics of us against them will never end in this country. And we'll get back with one Caleb Kositanyu, who's in studio, to talk about what next, and also specifically on the conversation around IEBC. There are the proposals within the Constitutional Amendment Bill under the BBI report, but also a law was signed into law sometime last week by President Kenyatta saying that now new commissioners can be picked through a process that has been outlined in the Constitution. So what should we do, bearing in mind that we have less than 2 years to the next election, and the Kriegler report recommended that at least, a commission should be in place at least 2 years before a general election. We have that and more after the break.